Wednesday was a roller coaster of emotions for Nintendo fans. The day started with a report regarding Nintendo's illusory Switch Pro console, claiming that Nintendo had already delivered 4K Switch development kits to at least 11 different game companies. The implication being that Nintendo is working on a 4K version of the Switch console, even as it preps to launch its OLED Switch hardware in October. Following the report, however, Nintendo has issued a surprising rebuke. Nintendo posted a two-part statement on Twitter in response to Bloomberg's report regarding 4K Nintendo Switch developer kits. The statement is carefully worded, but also very clear. To start, Nintendo blanketly denies Bloomberg's reporting, saying that the report falsely claims that Nintendo is supplying tools to drive game development for a Nintendo Switch with 4K support. It then reiterates that the report is not true, specifically noting that the message is intended for both Nintendo's investors and customers. In the second part of its statement, Nintendo addresses the more material aspect of the report. Nintendo claims that it has no plans for another Nintendo Switch model other than what's already been announced. In other words, the OLED version of the Nintendo Switch is the only version of the console that Nintendo currently has plans for. It then restates that the OLED Nintendo Switch will be launching on October 8th. Nintendo doesn't address any of the more specific aspects of the report, however. It focuses entirely on the broader claims made by Bloomberg. It doesn't say whether it has provided some kind of development kit to developers, including Zynga. It doesn't comment on the apparent belief that 4K games for Switch will be available in the second half of 2022. Nor does it comment on reported plans to launch the 4K Switch earlier being delayed by a component shortage. The truth of Nintendo's statement is undeniable, to certain lengths. Obviously, Nintendo has not announced any plans for a 4K Switch or another product at this time, so there's truth in saying it has no plans to release such a console. Since there's no 4K Nintendo Switch announced, even if Nintendo did provide 4K hardware to developers, that doesn't mean it's for a 4K Switch. There's room between the words of Nintendo's statement for key details of Bloomberg's report to be true. That doesn't make it any easier for Nintendo Switch players, or prospective Switch buyers, to make a purchasing decision, however. The OLED Switch comes out in October, but Nintendo's plans beyond that are up in the air. It's unclear whether customers take Nintendo at its word, or trust the leaks regarding a potential 4K Switch release in the relatively near future. Nintendo first-party games sells like hotcakes, but the one thing Nintendo should to do is that they need to make a more superior and powerful system. Nintendo lacks in the graphical department, and the fans should demand better. Super Smash Bros. Ultimate first released for the Nintendo Switch 3 years ago, and Nintendo has been supporting the crossover fighting game with regular content updates ever since then. However, the support for Super Smash Bros. Ultimate is finally coming to an end, with game director Masahiro Sakurai hosting his final Sakurai Presents event, revealing the final DLC character and other new content for the game. Throughout the Super Smash Bros. Ultimate Sakurai Presents event, fans got a look at new music, stages, Mii Fighter costumes, and more that are all coming to Super Smash Bros. Ultimate. Needless to say, Sakurai definitely capped off his Super Smash Bros. Ultimate presentations with a bang. It was previously leaked that Sora from Kingdom Hearts would be the final DLC character in Super Smash Bros. Ultimate, and it turns out those leaks were correct. It seems the roadblocks keeping Sora from Kingdom Hearts have since been removed, and the character is now making his way to the crossover fighting game as the final DLC character. Sora is said to be an easy character to play, which should make him more accessible than past DLC characters. With Sora, Nintendo has gotten especially creative with the alternate costumes. Depending on if someone is P1, P2, P3, P4, or beyond, Sora will look different. His costumes are based on his appearances from the various Kingdom Hearts games over the years. For example, P1 will look like Sora from the first Kingdom Hearts game, whereas P2 will look like Sora from Kingdom Hearts 2. Sora's attacks will be familiar to anyone who has played the Kingdom Hearts games, as he is able to pull off all his familiar attacks. Sora's special attacks are mostly based on his magic like Thundaga, Blizzaga, etc. Sora is part of the Super Smash Bros. Ultimate Fighters Pass Volume 2, so anyone that has that will automatically have him added to their roster. Those who aren't introduced in the other Super Smash Bros. Ultimate DLC characters, but just want Sora, can purchase him separately for $5.99. The Sora DLC will launch for Super Smash Bros. Ultimate on Monday, October 18th. Like with any other Super Smash Bros. Ultimate DLC fighter, Sora is coming with a stage based on his video game franchise. The Kingdom Hearts stage in Super Smash Bros. Ultimate transports players outside of Hollow Bastion, and at the end of the match, they are taken to the World of Heart, referred to as Dive to the Heart. This section of the stage is the sort of void that Kingdom Hearts characters visit at various points in the game, with a stained glass background that features various characters from the franchise. Super Smash Bros. Ultimate DLC characters come with their own songs as well, and those who have a save file for Kingdom Hearts Melody of Memory on their Nintendo Switch console will also get the dearly beloved Swing version song in Super Smash Bros. Ultimate as an added bonus. Sora will be the only Kingdom Hearts character playable in Super Smash Bros. Ultimate, but spirits based on other characters from the franchise will be featured in the game. The Super Smash Bros. Ultimate spirits based on Kingdom Hearts are Kairi, Ventus, Aqua, Terra, Riku, Xian, Axel, and Roxas, so quite the range of characters from throughout the Kingdom Hearts series. The focus of the Sakurai Presents event was on the Super Smash Bros. Ultimate Sora DLC, but Sakurai made another exciting announcement for Switch fans. Kingdom Hearts HD 1.5 plus 2.5 Remix, Kingdom Hearts HD 2.8 Final Chapter Prologue, and Kingdom Hearts 3 are all coming to Nintendo's home console/handheld hybrid. The catch is that Kingdom Hearts 3 is only going to be playable on the Switch through the cloud like Dying Light 2. Believe or not, Kingdom Hearts is nearly 20 years old, being originally released on the PS2 in 2002. Square Enix is getting fans prepared early with the announcement of the Kingdom Hearts 20th anniversary event. Kingdom Hearts, the unlikely mashup of Disney and Final Fantasy, continues to this day as one of gaming's most popular franchises. Although the series went a different direction after Kingdom Hearts 2, with the subsequent games being released mostly on handheld platforms, and in turn, causing fans to wait 14 years until Kingdom Hearts 3, the series is still beloved for its characters, fun gameplay, and ambitious story. The series follows a young boy named Sora, who is thrust into the adventure of a lifetime when he's swept away from his home, finds the mysterious Keyblade, and befriends the Disney icons, Donald and Goofy. In a new video, Square Enix has officially announced the Kingdom Hearts 20th anniversary event. Unfortunately, Square Enix does not offer any further information about the event like its date or format. It's simply saying in the video, details will follow at a later date. The trailer does, however, show off the logo for the 20th anniversary event, and it is filled with Kingdom Hearts iconography. Making up the two is one of half of the regular Kingdom Hearts heart emblem, its tail merging into the tip of the Kingdom Key. The 0 is the full Kingdom Hearts heart emblem with the signature crown sitting atop it. For fans of the mobile games, Kingdom Hearts Union X-Cross now has an offline version where players can watch the entire story in theater mode, and Kingdom Hearts Dark Road's final chapter will be coming next winter. Unlike before where chapter segments were released over time, according to the trailer, Square Enix is releasing it in one go, all the way through to the ending, meaning players will likely not have to wait after it drops. What a time to be a Kingdom Hearts fan between Sora in Smash, and everything else that is on the way. It has been a great day for Kingdom Hearts news. While it is fun to celebrate the series' history, it's also exciting to anticipate what is to come, to hypothesize about what surprises are in store. Kingdom Hearts 3 ended the Dark Seeker saga, and Melody of Memory shows the cast figuring out what threats lie ahead, so hopefully this 20th anniversary event will shed light on where the series is heading, if but a glimpse at the next project. Sakurai provided an update on upcoming amiibo figures that will be released for use in Super Smash Bros. Ultimate. Alex and Steve from Minecraft are coming in amiibo form in spring 2022, while Sephiroth, Pyra, Mithra, and Tekken's Kazuya all have amiibo in the pipeline as well. Specific release date information for these new Super Smash Bros. Ultimate amiibo figures hasn't been revealed. Before Sakurai announced the final DLC character for Super Smash Bros. Ultimate, he revealed new Mii Fighter costumes that are coming to the game. These include an Octoling wig and a Judd hat from the Splatoon series, but the big news is that Doom Slayer is coming to Super Smash Bros. As an alternate costume for the Mii Gunner. These new costumes will be released on Monday, October 18th, and will cost 75 cents each. Kingdom Hearts is good, but playing those games only through cloud on the Switch, it really shows how outdated is the Switch. And we have been wanting a PlayStation All-Stars for years. Sora and Kingdom Hearts have a long history with PlayStation, and it's a big get for Nintendo, and it's really a shame on the PlayStation side for not doing anything with PlayStation All-Stars. And now Sora is in Smash. PlayStation really needs to step up and bring PlayStation All-Stars 2 to the horizon. Yesterday was a great day for Nintendo fans, and I really want them to bring Nintendo into the next generation. Moving forward, during an interview with the senior producer of Metroid Prime 3, it was revealed that the game was originally pitched as an open world. The Metroid franchise is one of Nintendo's most beloved properties, and is finally ending its 4-year dry spell with Metroid Dread coming out. Fans, however, are still wondering and waiting for the next installment, Metroid Prime 4, which hasn't seen any updates in quite some time. During an interview, Metroid Prime 2 and 3 senior producer Brian Walker unveiled some information on Metroid Prime 3 which could potentially hint at plans for Metroid Prime 4. Metroid Prime 3 was released 14 years ago for the Wii, and it wasn't until 2017 that Nintendo announced Metroid Prime 4 was in development for the Nintendo Switch. Unfortunately, just 2 years later Nintendo announced that Metroid Prime 4 was going to restart development under Retro Studios, the original developers for the Metroid Prime games. Although no new announcements have been made about Metroid Prime 4, some information from the previous installment has been revealed. During an interview with Kiwi Talks, Walker briefly touched on the development for Metroid Prime 3, stating Mark, Metroid Prime Trilogy director, came forward with an interesting twist in the vision and some of the formulas for Metroid Prime 3 as compared to Metroid Prime 2. We wanted to a greater degree leverage the ship as a playable asset, for instance. Mark was thinking much more ambitiously. Perhaps there was also an open world, less linear, that he was proposing. The idea of an open-world Metroid Prime game that also had the task of introducing the Wii Remote into gameplay sounds like a large task to accomplish, and sadly, these plans for the non-linear game were ultimately scrapped. At the time, the plans Retro Studios had for an open-world style Metroid Prime game were just too ambitious on top of the transition to the Wii console. With that being said, there is no saying what Metroid Prime 4 has in store for fans. As previously mentioned, Metroid Prime 4 will be developed by Retro Studios, and although some of the creative minds behind Metroid Prime 3 are no longer present, the idea of an open-world game could still be on the table. After all, Nintendo has found success with open-world titles such as Breath of the Wild. It's almost a little sad to hear the comments Brian Walker had about Metroid Prime 3. Although it's still an amazing installment in the Metroid franchise, the idea of an open-world Metroid game where Samus gets to fly her ship to different planets sounds fascinating. With not much information given on Metroid Prime 4 besides the studio developing it, it's tough to say how the game will play out. With as much time as it's taken, even if it's not open world, it's more than safe to assume there is some form of grand vision in mind. Night School Studios, the developer of Oxenfree, announces that it's joined Netflix and shares what the partnership means going forward. While some indie dev studios struggle to catch a big break at times, Night School Studios was able to hit home with its first title Oxenfree, which has garnered a small cult following. The studio has since gone on to make other narrative games such as Afterparty, and is currently developing Oxenfree 2. As fans await the sequel to the story of Alex and her friends, the studio has recently announced it has joined the Netflix team. Netflix has been aiming to branch outside of its usual market of streaming and video rentals for some time now, starting with an attempt to break into comic books. As of recent, the company has begun testing its video game streaming service for its platform, and the acquisition of Night School Studios marks Netflix's first exclusive development studio. Night School Studios explains in its blog post regarding the agreement that its love for narrative storytelling and Netflix's aim to give its creators an unprecedented canvas to create was a perfect match, saying that the streaming company is giving the utmost care into protecting how the studio has always handled its development process. For fans, Night School Studios also says that they don't need to worry, and that Oxenfree 2's development is still going along as planned. Upon hearing the news, some fans have expressed concern that this means a great indie studio now has its games held behind a streaming service like Google Stadia, which not too many players are fond of. While Night School's post says nothing about exclusivity, Netflix's own press release mentions working hard to create exclusive games for its lineup, which means there's a chance any future Night School Studios titles may indeed only be found on Netflix's platform. With that in mind, it may seem like a genuine loss for some fans of Night School's work, as this may mean that future titles may be on a platform they're not particularly fond of, or they don't have the membership needed to play them. Even though some Oxenfree fans may end up unable to support the titles coming next from the studio, new future fans may experience what Night School has to offer easier, as they can pick up and put down Netflix's titles rather easily. As concerning as the partnership may be, Netflix's post specifically makes a mention that its streaming platform for games will come as part of any membership players may already have, with no microtransactions later down the line. That may lead these games to be easier on players' wallets, but time will have to tell just how well Netflix's gaming service performs once it arrives. The Ghostbusters property looks to be making a resurgence on the big screen, with Ghostbusters Afterlife finally coming out next month. This same resurgence is seemingly going to extend to video games too. A new Ghostbusters game is supposedly in development by IllFonic, the developers behind the recent Predator, Hunting Grounds, and 2017's Friday the 13th, the game. As of right now, IllFonic is gearing up to release its next major title, Arcadegeddon, which has been in early access since July 2021. Like IllFonic's previous titles, Arcadegeddon is a multiplayer-focused adventure that sees a group of friends team up against a powerful enemy. With the developers' previous works in mind, one has to wonder how IllFonic will tackle a traditionally narrative-focused franchise such as Ghostbusters. During an episode of the Questlove Supreme podcast, Raphael Sadiq, IllFonic's co-founder, casually mentioned that the studio is working on a new Ghostbusters video game. When asked how many games the studio has released, Raphael replied, "Friday the 13th, the last one, and Predator, and we're working on Ghostbusters right now, and Arcadegeddon is out right now." Unfortunately, no other relevant information about Ghostbusters was shared. The name drop of Ghostbusters is an interesting, but not completely unexpected one from IllFonic. The developers have had their hand on Friday the 13th, the game, and Predator, Hunting Grounds, both horror movie franchises just like Ghostbusters. IllFonic is still hard at work on Arcadegeddon, which is currently in early access. It's not known whether or not Ghostbusters is still in the early stages of development, or if fans can hope to see it sometime in 2022. After all, it was unannounced until now, so it's more than likely that the game won't come out for some time. The last console Ghostbusters game outside of Ghostbusters, the video game's remaster in 2019 was The last console Ghostbusters game outside of Ghostbusters, the video game's remaster in 2019 was 2016's critically panned Ghostbusters. Still, IllFonic has found some success in Friday the 13th and Predator, Hunting Ground. Both titles scored mixed reviews, but have found some fans after content patches. On the surface, the idea of IllFonic tackling Ghostbusters may be worrying to some. Apart from the mixed reviews for its past titles, both Friday the 13th and Predator, Hunting Ground are multiplayer focused. While the idea of joining together to fight against ghosts is appealing, a Ghostbusters game with a solid campaign is also important. From IllFonic's two previous titles, it doesn't seem like this game will end up getting that. With that said, it's still far too early to tell how the Ghostbusters game will play out. It's possible a campaign will be included, so Ghostbusters fans should not worry until it is confirmed not to have one. Further, the studio could deliver a solid Ghostbusters experience. Keeping the fact in mind that Sony owns the Ghostbusters IP, it could be a PlayStation console exclusive. Speaking of new games and PlayStation exclusives, the latest update from Final Fantasy XVI's producer and director indicates that the game's main story is now complete. Fans of Square Enix have been looking forward to is the upcoming Final Fantasy XVI. With the game being omitted from Square Enix's Tokyo Game Show presentation, I am worried that the project wouldn't have any news about its progress anytime soon. However, a recent live stream at TGS was able to give a small update from two key staff members of the project, Naoki Yoshida and Hironobu Sakaguchi. One of the key details discussed during the stream was regarding the story of Final Fantasy XVI. The latest entry of this long-running franchise involves returning to its high fantasy roots, as opposed to the more sci-fi and modern settings, as mentioned by Sakaguchi on the stream. This includes the return of medieval set pieces and aesthetics seen in Final Fantasy XVI's initial reveal trailer for the PS5. Ever since then, the only information known is a time skip involving the protagonist Clive, as well as the giant icon summons, with further information about the game being kept close to the chest. Fans might be relieved to hear that the latest progress on the game is the main story being finished. Yoshida mentioned during the TGS livestream that the team started production on the story a long time ago. The priority was mostly held on the story of the game, and that they didn't begin adding more team members until it was complete. To them, the story needed to be completely ready before the full production of Final Fantasy XVI could begin. Aside from the main story, Yoshida also discussed the progress on other important aspects of Final Fantasy XVI. He mentions that the side quests are currently being worked on, and they need some polish regarding its quality. Sakaguchi mentioned that he wanted to write one of the side quests for the game as well. Yoshida extended the offer to have him write a quest for Final Fantasy XIV, with Sakaguchi replying that he didn't want to compete with other quest writers like Yasumi Matsuno and Yoko Taro. Other technical aspects were also discussed regarding the progress of the game. One of these includes almost all of the models used in the game being almost completed as well. Suffice to say, if there's one thing to be taken from this interview, it would be that it was important that Yoshida's dev team wanted to finish everything to the letter before getting more manpower. There is a great boon for Final Fantasy XVI to start small instead of going big at the beginning and fumbling the development process during production. It's great to hear Final Fantasy XVI update, and we have speculated the release date of Final Fantasy XVI release date in a previous video, which is based on the PlayStation Showcase intro. 2022 is already one hell of a year, and if Final Fantasy XVI comes out next year, it's gonna be the greatest year in gaming, after a long time. And that's all for the video guys. Like and share the video for a greater audience. Comment your thoughts on the topics and donations are always appreciated. Subscribe to the channel and click the bell icon, and until then from SMPV, it's goodbye.
I'll kill you.